Number 8. Creo Chance Bishop. West Virginia man Creo Chance Bishop was arrested after attempting to burn down JB's Gentlemen's Club in Huntington in the early hours of December the 13th of 2017. Court records detailed how Bishop had remained in the area to watch the fire burning from across the street and even tried to stop a concerned passerby from dialing 911. Officers eventually found him in the parking lot of a nearby Walmart, where they took him into custody on second-degree arson charges. As indicated by a criminal complaint, Bishop had excitedly stated that he'd started the fire because he was tired of his girlfriend working at the club. The man's girlfriend was identified as Michaela Beidenbach, who'd reportedly been employed at JB's for 6 months prior to the incident. The club's manager told a local news station that he would likely need to terminate Beidenbach out of concerns that Bishop would repeat his actions and it might be worse next time. Number 7. The Scores Hustlers. In June of 2014, federal law enforcement took 4 exotic dancers into custody on suspicion of operating a pernicious blackmailing scheme at a pair of New York City gentlemen's clubs. The alleged ringleader of the scam was 40-year-old Samantha Barbash, a hostess at Scores Gentlemen's Club in the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan. Barbash, along with the 3 other dancers implicated in the resulting criminal complaint, would allegedly target wealthy businessmen they encountered at high-end restaurants and bars. After seducing the individuals, the women would drug them by lacing their drinks with a cocktail of various substances, including ketamine, methadone, and cocaine. While their targets were in a drug-induced stupor, the women lured them to the clubs where they worked. It was there that they stole their credit cards, charging thousands of dollars in drinks and dances that the impaired men hadn't requested. In turn, the establishments would give Barbash and the other dancers a cut of the proceeds they generated through the scheme. The women also allegedly took compromising photographs of the victims that were subsequently used to blackmail them into silence. According to federal investigators, the group had stolen approximately $200,000 between September and December of 2013, including $135,000 from a New Jersey cardiologist named Zayed Yunan. Barbash ultimately pleaded guilty to charges of conspiracy, assault, and grand larceny. She was consequently sentenced to 5 years of probation. The case involving her and the other dancers served as the basis for the 2019 comedy drama Hustlers, starring Jennifer Lopez and Constance Wu. Number 6. The Stormy Daniels Lawsuit. Adult film actress Stephanie Clifford, professionally known as Stormy Daniels, was awarded a $450,000 payout in September of 2019 after settling her lawsuit against an Ohio gentlemen's club. Daniels' legal dispute with the Sirens Club in Columbus stemmed from an incident that had occurred in the summer of the previous year. While performing at the establishment in July of 2018, Daniels allegedly made improper physical contact with 3 undercover police officers who subsequently arrested her. The charges levied against the dancer were later dropped. The decision was made following an FBI investigation into the matter, which determined that the officers had violated the Columbus Division of Police's rules of conduct during their interaction with her. Daniels accused the law enforcement officials of targeting her in a sting operation in an effort to protect the interests of President Donald Trump, with whom she'd been involved in a highly publicized civil dispute at the time. Although her attorney indicated that Daniels could have received a higher payout, she ultimately accepted the $450,000 after the officers who'd arrested her were formally disciplined by the police department. Number 5. Heather Lane Billings. 43-year-old Heather Lane Billings, the owner of 2 private clubs in Del City, Oklahoma, faced criminal charges following an undercover police investigation that culminated in 2018. Court documents detailed how officers had witnessed several of the exotic dancers under Billings' employ engage in illegal lewd acts with customers and openly sell them banned substances, including cocaine. In August of 2016, Billings had taken over ownership of the clubs Fantasy Island and Midway Island from her husband. who'd been sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Investigators alleged that the woman had been fully aware of the illegal activities being performed by her employees and neglected to take any action to stop them. She was consequently charged with maintaining a place where a controlled, dangerous substance is sold, as well as conspiracy and filing a false instrument. The latter charge reportedly stemmed from the fact that Billings had lied about having insurance in order to illegally obtain a liquor license. As of the latest updates on the case, Billings was still awaiting a trial date. Number 4. Alicia Ruiz and Anthony Bates. At around 3 a.m. on May the 7th of 2021, Pinellas County Sheriff's deputies were called to the Diamond Dolls Gentlemen's Club in Pinellas Park, Florida, after receiving reports of shots fired on the premises. According to the resulting police report, the incident involved 21-year-old Alicia Ruiz and her boyfriend, Anthony Bates, aged 30. The latter's ex-girlfriend had arrived at the club, accompanied by her mother, at which point an argument broke out between the two parties. A row between Ruiz and Bates' ex-girlfriend eventually spilled out into the rear parking lot. The police later revealed that Ruiz then pulled out a handgun and fired 2 rounds with bullet fragments, clipping both the ex-girlfriend and her mother. Fortunately, the victims only sustained minor injuries in the shooting. Upon the arrival of emergency responders, they were taken to a nearby hospital for treatment. Ruiz and Bates were later tracked down to a convenience store parking lot. The young woman was arrested on a charge of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, while her boyfriend, who'd allegedly driven the getaway vehicle, was charged with being a principal to an aggravated battery. There had also been an unrelated warrant out for Bates' arrest in connection to a case involving a suspended driver's license. Number 3. David Robinson. Georgia resident David Robinson was released from prison on October the 14th of 2017 after serving an 8-year sentence on an armed robbery conviction. To celebrate his discharge, the 34-year-old man reportedly accompanied some of his friends to the Peaches Gentlemen's Club in Atlanta. However, after they pulled into the club's parking lot at about 1:40 a.m., Robinson brandished a firearm. Suddenly, and for no apparent reason, he fatally shot 29-year-old Jalla Ross Bayer, with whom he'd been friends since childhood. Subsequent reports detailed how Robinson then took aim at another one of his friends, who managed to flee before getting hit. When approached by the club security personnel, Robinson fired at them as well, before fleeing the scene. He tried to make his escape by scaling a fence, but it collapsed on top of him, and he was taken into custody of Atlanta police. In September of 2019, it was reported that Robinson had been convicted of murder charges, and he was consequently sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Number 2. Ashley Barrett. Florida police responded to reports of a disturbance at the VIP Gentlemen's Club in Key West at about 5:30 p.m. on September the 13th of 2018. Upon their arrival, officers learned that a dancer at the establishment, 26-year-old Ashley Barrett, had allegedly attacked 2 of her co-workers, one of whom had been sleeping at the time. The victims told the police that Barrett, who was intoxicated, had waved a hair straightener at them, saying, "We're going to play an evil game. I'm going to get you when you least expect it." Following Barrett's arrest, the police found that it was actually the second time she'd been taken into custody on that day. It was reported that earlier in the afternoon, law enforcement had been notified of a situation at the Bottle Cap Lounge, where Barrett had allegedly been handing out VIP cards to customers, a prohibited practice under city regulations. An employee at the club contacted Barrett's co-workers, who subsequently accompanied her back to the VIP Gentlemen's Club, where it was reported they resided. At that point, Barrett brandished a knife and began waving it threateningly at her colleagues. She was consequently arrested under the Marchman Act, which is legislation used for taking people into custody who are under the influence of drugs or need help. As detailed in court records, Barrett ultimately faced criminal charges of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. She was reportedly held at Stock Island Detention Center on a $35,000 bond pending the commencement of her case's legal proceedings. Number 1. Stanley Zeliga. On October the 26th of 2021, Abigail Saldana, an exotic dancer from Texas, was found dead behind the wheel of her vehicle at an exit near the Dallas club where she worked. Officers at the scene determined that the 22-year-old had been fatally shot, an aspect supported by the discovery of 3 bullet casings inside the car. Shortly thereafter, the police spoke with the manager of Rick's Cabaret, who confirmed that Saldana had been employed at the establishment. Through subsequent interviews, law enforcement learned that the young woman had recently been stalked and harassed by a frequent patron named Stanley Zeliga, aged 54. In a video posted to Saldana's Instagram account roughly 2 weeks before her death, the dancer revealed she'd found what appeared to be a tracking device on the underside of her car. Following further investigation, it also emerged that a license plate reader had spotted Zeliga's vehicle near Saldana's residence on at least 5 separate occasions within a 12-day period, including 17 minutes before the shooting was reported. 2 days after Saldana's death, the police went to Zeliga's Irvine residence, where following a brief standoff, they found him with self-inflicted cuts all over his body after receiving treatment for the wounds, which were described as mostly superficial. The suspect was arrested and charged with Saldana's murder. In their efforts to establish a potential motive for the crime, investigators concluded that Zeliga had grown upset with the victim, claiming she'd taken advantage of him and swindled him out of thousands of dollars. Thanks for watching. Would you rather live above a gentleman's club or work in an office that doesn't require shoes? Let us know in the comments section below.